just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Owen with Sportscastr News, and with me out in nature is my guy, Ray Rauth. Welcome to the stream.
What's going on, man?
Not too bad. So what's going on, man? You're out there kind of chilling, enjoying nature out there today.
Yeah, we just we've been trapped in the house for 3 months now, 2.5 months. So got up to the cottage, got away, doing a little bit of social distancing in the wilderness.
Yeah, that's how it works. Well, today we're going to talk about how Chris Sims went out and said straight up that he was blown away by Daniel Jones, that it was good to see Coach Joe Judge start talking about him earlier in the offseason, saying that everybody's got to compete for a job. But he says that Daniel Jones will not have to compete for anyone on that team or on that roster. Anyone who's on that roster, he's better than them. That Daniel Jones, he was the MVP of the Giants last year, at least to him, and it wasn't even close. What are your thoughts on Daniel Jones heading into his second season?
I'm a big fan of Daniel Jones, man. I'm going to be honest with you, Lawrence, and I was talking about Daniel Jones just the other day. I didn't want the Giants to start him last season. I really wanted him to play behind Eli. The Giants weren't going to win. That was the whole thing. The Giants weren't going to compete for a Super Bowl. They weren't going to win. I wanted Daniel Jones to sit behind him, learn what it's like to be a professional quarterback, and just go from there. I saw no reason to start him. Saying that, even though his stats and his DVOAs and all that kind of stuff was probably, I think it was like he was like second to third last from the bottom. He's not, a top guy. I think that Jones has a very good opportunity to be a solid quarterback in the NFL. I think when you compare him to somebody like Eli Manning, and I think that Eli Manning gets underrated and disrespected a lot. I mean, he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. I think he's a Super Bowl MVP, led the Giants to things. But I think Daniel Jones could be a better quarterback than Eli as long as he can develop. The one thing the Giants are going to have to do, obviously, is number one, protect him, because that has been a problem in New York for probably the last 2 or 3 years, and make sure that he has the proper offensive weapons around him. Now, I don't think that he needs a Tyreek Hill or Hollywood Brown or those kind of guys. He just needs solid passing options. When you look at his overall fundamentals and the way he plays, his poise in the pocket, his leadership on the field as a rookie, I think the sky's the limit for the kid. And I'm going to say, just with my experience with Joe Judge from New England, being a Patriots fan, I think he's also got kind of a perfect coach to develop and foster what Daniel Jones can become. My only thing is my expectations for the Giants this year aren't very high, especially being in a division where they have to play Philadelphia and Dallas twice, and that's a tough division to play. And you got and he's got to deal with Chase Young too twice a year, even though Washington's not going to be a top-rated team by any sense. I just think as long as he's able to develop and they're able to protect him and they're able to give him the opportunity and the resources to continue growing, that's going to be important. What I don't want to see is him being in bad situations over and over again, and then we got a Josh Rosen situation on our hands.
That's a good point. That is a very good point. Things could have been a lot different had Josh Rosen came in and actually had someone to learn behind for a year. So I agree completely with that. I know that your connection out there out in the wilderness isn't the greatest. Are you able to stick around for a minute, or do you think you might need to take off?
No, I can stick around. Are you getting me? Am I cutting out too much?
No, you're good. You're good. Just slight cuts occasionally.
I found the one spot where I can get service up here. So
all the crosswinds are just perfect. All right. So in my opinion, see, Daniel Jones was sacked 38 times last year, and that number would have been sky higher had it been Eli, because quite frankly, Eli's mobility is not what it used to be, and Daniel Jones was able to get out of bad situations really quick. Another situation that a lot of people don't realize is his top tight end missed exactly half the season. Sterling Shepard missed like 5 or 6 games. Golden Tate missed 5 or 6 games. he didn't have weapons other than Saquon Barkley, right? And granted, Saquon at the running game, that's something special to have, but you need passing options. You need protection. And just he got thrown into the fire, like you said, and I think he swam rather than sunk.
I agree with you. I think that that was one of the main reasons, away from just injuries. That was one of the main reasons I didn't want him to play last year. I thought the offensive line was going to be a disaster for the poor kid. Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, he's got Golden Tate. He had Shepard. We didn't know that he was going to miss half the season. You know what I mean? And he had Saquon Barkley. So he's got the weapons around him. They also had a pretty tough schedule last season.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit to you, I probably only watched maybe 3 Giants games. It wasn't like they were really high on my radar of a team to follow, but I did make sure to watch a few. Well, obviously they played New England last year, so I watched that game, which I was pretty impressed with the kid. Again, New England seemed to beat them pretty handedly. There was never a fear that the game was in hand, but my takeaway, that was the first game I watched. My takeaway was this kid has the opportunity to be something special. And then as I continued on and watching, and I think I watched him against Dallas one game, and I think I watched him against Washington. And I guess Washington's a harder sort of assessment because they weren't a great team. But, yeah, he swam. Even under constant pressure, he swam. And very much more mobile than Eli. I mean, and especially an old Eli. Eli couldn't move at all. He did. And I think, too, that I wasn't a big fan of the coaching staff last year. So I think that having a new coaching staff, and really you're bringing in a Bill Belichick coaching tree, which, sorry, I'm getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. Having the Bill Belichick tree isn't always a great thing. We've seen guys like Matt Patricia fail at it. Josh McDaniels failed when he went to Denver. But Joe Judge, it seems to be almost like reminds me of a Brian Flores type of thing. A lot more laid back, a lot more of his own person. And because of that, I believe that nurturing thing they can do with Jones is going to be important. And yeah, you hit it right on the head. I mean, he could have sank to the bottom like a stack of rocks. You know, they could have put the cement boots on him and that be it. But they didn't. He didn't. He swam. He fought through adversity. And even though I don't think the Giants are really that set for this season, even though they did pick up the offensive lineman with the 4th overall pick, Campbell, I forget his name. The guy who I said they should pick. It's, you know me with names, Lawrence. It's it's brutal. But I think that, and guys, I don't have my tablet in front of me to look up, so I'm just going off the top of my head. So now people are going to know how not smart I am, Lawrence. but
they got Matt Pearl in the 3rd?
No, they picked up an offensive lineman with the 4th overall pick.
Am I looking at the wrong thing? Because it says draft picks 2020, New York's. Maybe that's, yeah, Giants.
Giants? Who was their first pick overall?
Andrew Thomas.
Andrew Thomas, that's who it was. The best tackle coming out of the draft.
The 4th overall pick. I thought you meant the 4th round pick. My brain.
No, 4th overall. So
yeah. They got Andrew Thomas, but they got Matt Pearl for the other side too. So I mean, that's going to help them out a lot.
So they're going to have a much more improved offensive line this season. I still don't think the Giants as an entire team are equipped to take on the likes of the Cowboys and the Eagles, especially if Andy Dalton's playing for the Cowboys, right? But I think that with that, we should see. I don't think we're going to see a sophomore slump with him. I think we're going to see a lot of progression going into his second season. At least that's my initial thought process on Daniel Jones.
Especially, in my opinion, if he can get his tight end fully healthy, if he could just establish a connection from game to game to game throughout a season, right? I mean, that's a big thing. People don't understand how important that is to have that connection with the people that you're playing with, because you got to understand how they break, when they break, how fast they are in their routes, right? And when you're not able to play with them from one game to another throughout the entire season, that completely messes you up because there's someone else out there that you're trying to get timing with down. and that messes you up with the person you're already with. So as long as Tate and Shepard and is his name, I think it was Ingram. Yeah.
Ingram.
Yeah. Evan Ingram. As long as they can play the full season out, I think, and then obviously Saquon Barkley and the running back that originally came from New England, went to Tennessee, and now the Giants have him, Dion Lewis.
Dion Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, Lewis will be a nice third down option, right? So, yeah, I think he's got weapons. They didn't really give him a whole lot, wide receiver-wise or running back-wise. They didn't need to. I mean, they could have went out and got a wide receiver, but instead they went out. I think they got Xavier McKinney in the second round, which was just wow. Good pick at least for their second pick. Great safety.
I mean, to me, the Giants are one of the winners of the draft, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they had such a good draft. Well, I mean, when you have the 4th overall pick and the 4th and the 2nd, you're going to get good players. But you land Xavier McKinney in the 2nd round. I mean, I think a lot of us were shocked that he fell out of the 1st round, and then he fell all the way to the 4th pick of the 2nd round. Like, good for New York, man. Good
right?
For you. Good for you.
Yeah. They filled needs with pretty high quality players at the positions that they picked. So they did a very good job in that draft. But the most important being, in my opinion, definitely they needed to fix their offensive line. They should have added some weapons somehow on the outside. I don't know if they got anyone in free agency at wide receiver or tight end. I didn't actually look.
I don't think they did. And you know what? I'm not a big fan of Golden Tate. I think that he's a bit of an overrated receiver. I don't think he's a bad receiver, but I think he's getting something like $15 million a year or something of that nature. I don't think he's a $15 million receiver.
That's more than T.Y. Hilton makes.
Yeah, I think that was a wasted, and I could be wrong, Lawrence. That's just what I think I have in my head. Because I remember when he signed with the Giants, I found it a bit of a laugh because T.Y., when he was leaving Philadelphia, all he talked about was, it's not about the money. I want to sign with a contender. I want to win a Super Bowl. And then he signed with the Giants for just like unbelievable, stupid money. Even if it's like $12.5 million, I don't think he's a 12.5. I think he's like an $8 to $10 million receiver. And again, he's a decent receiver, but he's not a true number one. And I think that's the biggest problem right now is he's the number one on the Giants. And I think that's going to be the difference maker between Daniel Jones and and not Daniel Jones. That's going to be, I think, the difference between what this Giants offense can be and what I think this Giants offense is actually going to be.
Yeah, Tate's not exactly a big receiver, right? He's kind of a smaller, quick type receiver. Got good hands though, amazing hands. I'll give him that. I'll give him that. But I think Shepard is probably going to end up being that. I think Shepard would be best dropped to the role of number 2. But right now, even though Tate's getting paid number 1, I think Shepard is their number 1.
I agree. And Golden Tate reminds me of a bit of a Brandon Cooks. A guy with explosive hands, explosive speed, but he's not really a true number 1. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of people have tried to use Brandon Cooks as like a Tyreek Hill, a T.Y. Hilton, that kind of role. And to me, he's never fit that role. And neither is Brandon Cooks. They're both good number 2s. That's my whole thing. They're good.
Yeah.
And I got no problems with Brandon Cook. Went to a Super Bowl with them. He went to a Super Bowl with the Rams. I mean, he went to back-to-back Super Bowls. I mean, Tyreek Hill, I mean, there's a reason they call him the Cheetah. Golden Tate's a decent receiver. He played on those awful Detroit teams for all those years. And then he heads over to the Eagles. Didn't go to a Super Bowl. That was the year after. But, I think went to the playoffs. But he's a really solid number 2. He's not a true number 1. And I think that teams need to stop. I think teams get so desperate. And this isn't just a Giants issue. I mean, if you look at Houston, Houston's a prime example. You gave up your number 1 receiver in DeAndre Hopkins for a running back who's probably not going to play the entire season. And you give him up and you bring in Brandon Cooks to be your new number 1, but Brandon Cooks is really a number 2. You know what I mean? And I think that people gamble on these number 2 receivers because they're really fast and think, well, the explosive speed will make up for it. But they're not Tyreek Hill,
Yeah.
and I mean, a part of me too says, Tyreek Hill is great, but how much of Sammy Watkins' presence, along with Patrick Mahomes,
And Kelsey.
and Kelsey elevates, Tyreek Hill that level. And I think the prime example is Julian Edelman. And what I think we saw this year, even though he had 1,000 yards and 100 catches, the one thing that we saw this year was he looked very different without Rob Gronkowski there to take away some of the attention. And I think that's what we see with guys like Golden Tate. It's easier to take him away because there's no other big name out there to really draw the attention. I think if he plays on a team with DeAndre Hopkins and he's the number 2, Golden Tate looks like he looks like the best receiver in the league.
Yeah. With the new lax NFL rules on marijuana, do you think maybe the Giants look into Josh Gordon if they reinstate him?
I don't know. I know that everything I've read is it looks like Seattle's ready to re-sign him if he gets reinstated. Mm-hmm. So it looks like the Seahawks are there. Don't forget, Joe Judge was there with the whole Josh Gordon thing.
Mm-hmm. That's why I was saying that.
The one thing that I heard about Josh Gordon that was being reported when he went on injured reserve, which was basically so he couldn't. This way, the Patriots wanted to put him on waivers, so they put him on IR for 2 weeks to get him to that stage. Gordon would just disappear in the locker room. He would be late for meetings. Work ethic on the field was fine. When he was there, he was great. But he would just disappear. Like, people would be walking around the building. Coaches would be walking around the building. Trainers, where's Josh? We need Josh. And they couldn't find him when he was supposed to be in certain places. To me, and Gordon burnt the Patriots twice, basically, right? And I think that Joe Judge wouldn't want to, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 3 times, shame on me.
Right. Okay. All right. That's good information there. I didn't realize that. Obviously the talent with Josh Gordon is there, but you really need someone who is more than willing to put forth the effort behind that talent and bring it to the team. You got to put the team first. It's just all there is. Yeah. I wouldn't want Brown on the Giants, not in this situation, not with the youth, especially with Daniel Jones at quarterback. He's too young, too able to be influenced. Even though he is at quarterback, he's still a young person. You'd want an experienced quarterback with Antonio Brown to be able to handle that kind of person. But is there any other wide receivers you could think of that might be on the free agency right now?
I don't think free agency, but can I throw something crazy out at you?
Sure, go ahead.
Let's say we get to week 5 or 6, right around that trade deadline. Because what's the trade deadline? Week 8? Mm-hmm. Let's say we get to week 5 or 6. Let's say the Giants are 4-2, right? Have a chance, kind of thing. Let's say the Patriots are 2-4. You know who I think could really help a young receiver trying to make a run down a stretch? Julian Edelman, a guy who the coach knows, a guy who's getting older, a guy who's got a reasonable salary and could be that true slot receiver that you need, which I think will either he will really explode or Golden Tate explodes because of it. And I could actually see, and we all know Belichick's history with the Giants. Joe Judge is now the Giants coach. That's a move I could actually see happen. But I don't think we're going to see it until mid-season.
You really think that that Belichick would get rid of Edelman, even though he's basically the last old presence on the Patriots?
I think if the team is 2-4, if the Patriots are competitive and he feels like the Patriots can win, absolutely not. You're not going to give up your best receiver. Yeah. But if the Patriots are out of it, if Joe was here, he'd be telling us he would be, because I think he's got them winning like half a game or something like that. You know what I mean? Which I think is a little unrealistic. But, if they're 500 or under 500, 6 weeks, 7 weeks in, or even going into week 8, Edelman's an aging player. Bill Belichick is famous for moving on from aging players, even big fan favorites. And, if the Giants are in a position where they're fighting for a playoff spot, Edelman's value becomes that much more.
Yeah, he could get what he can out of him. That's what he likes to do, is sell high. So that is kind of a Belichick move.
I don't want to speed this up, but it has started raining now.
All right. Well, that's fine. We've been rolling on this for about 20 minutes, man. So I appreciate you taking time out of your little mini vacation here. And you need to get inside before you lose all your blood to the mosquitoes. So
I appreciate it, buddy.
All right. This is Lawrence Owen with Ray Rauth on Sportscastr News. And until next time, have a good one.
See you guys.
Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.